There's a moment in life that doesn't look like a miracle on the outside. It looks like breaking. It feels like confusion, isolation, even despair. But deep beneath the collapse is a whisper, a calling, a presence breathing through the chaos. And that's when it begins the sacred unraveling. It's not random. It's not punishment. It's God's signal that your old life no longer fits the magnitude of your true calling. If you felt like everything is falling apart, if nothing in this world satisfies your soul anymore, or if you're seeing signs you can't explain, this is not coincidence. This is the beginning of your remembering. And if you've received even one of these 7 signs, then you're not just another person navigating life blindly. You are a true chosen one, hand selected by the divine to awaken, rise, and carry light into a world that's forgotten what light even is. The first sign is divine discontent. It's a restlessness that won't go away. No matter how much success you achieve, how many people love you, or how comfortable your life becomes, something always feels off, like you're not living the life you were meant to live. This discontent isn't a flaw, it's a signal. It's God pulling you away from the artificial, the surface level, the illusions, and toward your true purpose. Most people numb this feeling. They drown it in distractions, addictions, or societal expectations. But if you've dared to sit in it, to feel it, to question it, then you're already listening to the divine frequency. You're already waking up. The second sign is a series of breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. The chosen ones don't awaken in comfort. We awaken through fire, through betrayal, loss, illness, heartbreak, or sudden life shifts that rip us from everything we thought we were. And it's only in that darkness that we begin to see the light. Not the external light, but the internal one. The light we forgot we carried. That's how God initiates the chosen. Not with applause, but with silence. Not with clarity, but with total ego death. Because only when everything false is stripped away can the real you, your soul, begin to lead. Have you ever asked yourself why the most spiritual people often have the most painful pasts? It's because pain is the portal. And if you've walked through your own personal hell and came out more compassionate, more awake, more you, then you've already passed one of the divine's greatest tests. The third sign is spiritual sensitivity that separates you from the crowd. You feel more. You notice more. You absorb energy like a sponge, and you often need time alone to recharge. You cry not just for yourself, but for humanity. You feel the collective pain. You sense when someone's lying. You get overwhelmed in environments others find normal. And you've probably been called too sensitive your whole life. But in truth, this sensitivity is your superpower. It's the antenna that allows you to hear God in places others hear nothing at all. It's the gift that lets you walk into a room and read the energy before a word is spoken. You're not weak. You're wired differently. And that wiring is sacred. It's part of your assignment. You're not here to toughen up. You're here to stay open, because only open hearts can channel divine power. The fourth sign is your life doesn't make sense until you zoom out spiritually. Have you ever looked back at your life and realized that the most painful, confusing, or random events somehow align perfectly to bring you to this exact moment of awareness? That's not chance. That's orchestration. That's God playing a long game with your soul. The friendships that ended without warning, the jobs that collapsed, the cities you were mysteriously drawn to, it all had a purpose. Even your mistakes were part of the map. And the moment you stop seeing life as chaos and start seeing it as a coded message from the divine, your entire existence transforms. You realize you've never been alone. You've always been guided. The chosen ones are given a life that can only be understood through spiritual eyes. And if your story only makes sense when viewed from the soul's perspective, that's another sign you were never meant to live an ordinary life. The fifth sign is you've experienced moments of undeniable synchronicity. Numbers repeating, seeing someone in a dream and then meeting them, thinking of a person and they call, finding the exact message you needed at the exact moment you were about to give up. These events aren't just cool, they're communication. They are divine winks. They are God's way of saying, I see you, keep going. When you start to experience synchronicity regularly, it means you are in alignment with your higher path, even if your logical mind can't explain it. But here's the deeper truth. Synchronicity isn't just happening to you, it's happening through you. Your energy, your thoughts, your intention, they're all becoming so tuned to the divine that reality itself begins to respond. And that's not magic, that's mastery. The sixth sign is a growing desire to serve, heal, or create something meaningful. The chosen ones feel a compulsion not from ego, but from the soul to help others evolve. You might feel called to speak, write, teach, build, or simply be a safe space for others going through their own awakening. And even if you don't know exactly how to do it yet, the desire itself is a sign. It's God planting the seed of purpose in your heart. You can't ignore it. You can't suppress it, because your soul came here with a mission, and now it's starting to remember. So while others chase status or approval, you find yourself longing for impact. You don't want to be known, you want to be used. Used by the divine to bring light into dark places. And the seventh sign, it's the most sacred of all. You felt God's presence in the silence. Not in a church, not in a book, but in the quiet moments no one sees, maybe in nature. Maybe in the middle of the night when you couldn't sleep, maybe in the heartbreak, when everything fell apart and you felt a peace that made no sense. That presence, that stillness, that knowing that you are held, even when no one is holding you. That's God. And if you felt that even once, you've touched something eternal, something most people spend their entire lives running from or trying to explain away. But you didn't run. You stayed. You listened. And now you're changing from the inside out. So I ask you, if you've received these signs, what are you going to do about it? Because awareness is only the beginning. The real journey begins when you stop questioning your worth and start embodying your calling. You are not here to fit in. You are not here to survive. You are here to awaken others by first awakening yourself. And God is waiting for you to say yes.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
You've probably noticed it by now, this unsettling feeling that you're drifting away from people you once loved, from places that once felt like home, from conversations that now feel hollow. It might feel like you're losing everything, but in truth, you're being set apart. This is one of the most misunderstood and painful stages of being a chosen one. Sacred isolation. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Because before God elevates you, He separates you. Before He gives you influence, He removes the noise. Before He gives you vision, He gives you silence. This isolation isn't just physical, it's energetic. You suddenly can't tolerate things you used to. Small talk drains you. Crowds overwhelm you. And there is this deep, unexplainable yearning to just be alone, not in loneliness, but in truth. You're not antisocial. You're not depressed. You're being spiritually rewired. God is pulling you into solitude because that's where your soul starts speaking louder than the world around you. And as uncomfortable as it feels, this separation is the womb of transformation. You're not being buried. You're being planted. And in silence, your roots grow deep. Think about it. Every great spiritual teacher, mystic, prophet, or awakened soul went through a season of isolation. Moses had the wilderness. Jesus had the desert. Buddha left his palace. Even in modern times, those who awaken deeply often retreat, disappear, or are guided to walk alone for a while. Why? Because elevation requires purification. You cannot carry the weight of your old life into your new assignment. You cannot awaken your higher self while clinging to relationships that only recognize your former identity. Sometimes God has to strip away your comfort zones so you can finally hear the truth without filters. And that kind of truth is sacred. It's raw. It's real. It's the kind of truth that doesn't just change your mind, it rebuilds your identity. But this process is brutal at times. Let's be real. You'll question everything. You look around and wonder why everyone else seems so connected, so socially fulfilled, while you feel like a ghost walking through an old dream. You'll start to doubt whether you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're doing something right. Because when God chooses you, He doesn't call you to comfort. He calls you to clarity. And clarity comes when the world is quiet. When tonight's phase, when the friends disappear, when the distractions dissolve, and all that's left is you naked, honest, raw, and ready. It's in this sacred isolation that you start to see life differently. You begin to realize how much of your old self was shaped by the expectations of others. You notice how often you betrayed your intuition just to maintain peace. You begin to feel, for the first time, what your energy feels like without interference. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And slowly, you begin building a new foundation, not on fear, not on people-pleasing, but on truth, on intuition, on alignment with God's vision for your life. And here's the paradox. The more isolated you become, the more connected you feel to something greater. While you may lose friends, you gain oneness. While you may walk alone physically, you begin to feel the presence of divine energy walking beside you, within you, through you. You start having conversations with God in your spirit that are more real than any conversation you've had with another human. You begin to be led not by ego, but by flow. Not by logic, but by resonance. You stop chasing validation and start following vibration. And that's when your power begins to rise. But don't rush this phase. This is the most sacred part of your evolution. Because what you build here in isolation will become the foundation for everything you're meant to create in the world. If you skip this part, you'll manifest a life that looks good but doesn't feel right. You'll attract people who like your image but don't see your soul. So trust the process, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely. Because this is the cocoon, and yes, it's dark, but it's where your wings are forming. So now I ask you, what if your loneliness is holy? What if God is not withholding connection from you, but preparing you for divine alignment? What if the empty space in your life is not a void, but a vessel being carved out to hold something sacred, something eternal? Pause for a moment and feel into that. Because when you stop fighting the isolation and start honoring it, everything shifts. You stop waiting for the world to affirm you, and you begin to affirm yourself. You stop begging for belonging and start realizing you belong to God. And that's enough. That's more than enough. This is the sacred separation. This is the divine reset. And if you're in it, you are not being punished. You are being chosen. Not for a small life, not for a safe life, but for a spiritual mission that requires you to be clear, strong, and aligned from the inside out. There comes a moment in the journey of the chosen when the world no longer appears the same, not because the external has changed, but because you have. Something shifts internally. You begin to notice patterns where others see coincidence. You hear silence differently. You feel presence in stillness. It's as if a veil has been lifted between you and reality, and now you're seeing through the layers beyond the surface of people, beyond the noise of the media, beyond the facade of this modern world. This isn't imagination. It's not delusion. It's perception expanding. It's your spiritual senses activating. When you're a chosen one, this awakening is inevitable. You weren't designed to live in illusion. You were made to pierce through it. You start to realize just how much of this world is built on distraction, on feeding the ego, on chasing approval, on numbing the soul. You see how people are addicted to busyness, to scrolling endlessly, to chasing status and validation. And suddenly, all of that feels empty to you. Not in a judgmental way, but in a deeply aware way. You feel like you're watching a play you can no longer participate in. The conversations feel scripted. The goals feel hollow. And for a while, that can make you feel like you're going crazy. But you're not. You're just waking up. You're seeing what was always there, but what most are not yet ready to acknowledge. And with this expanded awareness comes something even deeper, a voice. Not a loud, booming voice in the sky, but a subtle, inner knowing that becomes impossible to deny. It's not always words. Sometimes it's a pull, a feeling, an intuitive nudge that doesn't make sense logically but resonates in your bones. This is the voice of God, not separate from you but within you. And the more you trust it, the louder it becomes. The more you follow it, the clearer your path becomes. This is how chosen ones are guided, not by maps but by alignment, not by plans but by presence. But hearing this voice requires silence, stillness, space. And that's why the sacred isolation we spoke about earlier is so essential. Because the divine doesn't compete with noise. It doesn't shout over distraction. It waits patiently for you to turn inward, to listen. And once you do, you start realizing that the guidance was always there. You start remembering that your intuition was never wrong, you were just taught to doubt it. You begin to see that the heart's whisper was the divine's language all along. This shift is not something you can unsee. Once the veil lifts, things that used to satisfy you begin to fall away. The relationships built on performance lose their grip. The goals born from ego lose their appeal. And what remains is a raw, radiant clarity. You crave authenticity, depth, truth. You seek soul over success, purpose over popularity. And even though this path feels lonelier at times, it's also richer, fuller, more real. Because now you're not just existing, you're awake. You're living in communion with something infinite. You'll begin to experience moments where time seems to slow down, where you feel completely in the flow, like you're being carried by an invisible current. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. They are the divine letting you know you're aligned. And the more you trust those moments, the more you surrender to that flow, the more miraculous your life becomes. You'll meet the right people at the right time. Opportunities will find you. Words will come through you that you didn't even know you had. This is not fantasy. This is the life of someone living in divine rhythm. But here's where it gets deeper. As the veil lifts, you don't just see the truth of the world, you begin to see the truth of yourself. You realize you are not your story, not your trauma, not your limitations. You are not the label society gave you. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are soul. You are divine essence wrapped in human skin. You are consciousness experiencing itself through form. And that realization, it changes everything. It frees you. It humbles you. It empowers you. So let me ask you something. What illusions are you still holding on to? What lies do you still tell yourself about your worth, your power, your identity? And more importantly, what would happen if you let them go? Who would you become if you stopped shrinking to fit into a world that was never built for your light? This is the sacred gift of the lifted veil. It's not just about seeing others more clearly. It's about seeing yourself clearly. It's about remembering that everything you need, wisdom, guidance, strength, clarity, it's already within you. And the voice of God is not something you need to find. It's something you need to trust. Because it's been speaking to you all along. Once you've heard the voice, once the veil has lifted and you've seen the truth of who you are, there comes a final test. It is not a test of knowledge or even of faith. It is far more subtle, far more sacred. It's the test of embodiment. Can you walk in the power you've been given without letting it corrupt you? Can you carry divine light in a world still consumed by shadows without becoming arrogant, bitter, or lost in the illusion of your own importance? This is the final gate every chosen one must pass through. Because spiritual awakening is not the end of the journey, it's the beginning of responsibility. You see, once you realize that you are chosen, that you are connected to the divine and capable of miracles, there's a temptation to separate yourself from others, to see yourself as above, beyond, better. But that's the ego dressed in spiritual robes. The real power of a chosen one isn't in being above anyone, it's in serving everyone with humility, wisdom, and love. The more awakened you become, the more you must remember, power is not ownership. It's stewardship. You don't own truth. You carry it. You don't control light. You channel it. This is why so many fall at the final gate. They think they've arrived because they've had visions, downloads, or mystical experiences. But the spiritual life is not about how high you can go, it's about how deeply you can stay grounded while carrying the frequency of the heavens. Can you still be kind to the person who doesn't understand your journey? Can you still listen without needing to teach, love without needing to fix, exist without needing to prove? That's the true measure of embodiment. The final test shows up in the small things. When someone disrespects you, do you react or respond? When life delays your plans, do you control or surrender? When the world offers you influence, do you use it to feed your ego or to lift others? These are the questions that determine whether your power becomes your prison or your liberation. Because the more light you carry, the more shadow you'll attract, not just externally, but within yourself. Your hidden fears, your pride, your need to be seen, they all rise to the surface. Not to shame you, but to be transmuted, so you can be clean enough to carry power without leaking it. And here's the paradox: the more powerful you become, the more invisible you may feel. Because real spiritual power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need attention. It just is. It moves in silence. It heals by presence. It transforms by example, not explanation. And if you are truly chosen, you'll come to realize that the reward for embodying your divine nature is not fame, not riches, not validation, it's peace. The kind of peace that cannot be taken from you. The kind of peace that radiates outwards and shifts entire rooms without a word. So let me ask you, can you be trusted with your own light? Can you carry your gifts without needing to flaunt them? Can you walk in power without forgetting your humanity? Can you lead without controlling? Teach without preaching, serve without expecting, because this is the final test. Not a test of belief, but of becoming. Not a question of whether God has chosen you, you already are chosen. The question now is, will you live like it? Will you love like it? Will you rise not to stand above others, but to lift them with you? You're not here to escape the world. You're here to elevate it. You're not here to wait for a sign, you are the sign. You're not here to seek the divine, you embody it. The journey doesn't end with awakening. It begins with integration, with walking the talk, with living the truth. That's the real mission of the chosen ones. So now what will you do with the light you've been given? Because this is the moment, and you are ready.